photographer Jacob Riis went touring New York City and looking at slum life, he took somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 pictures that wound up in a book called How the Other Half Lives. And each one of them tells a story and then poses so many questions and then also begs for some sort of changes that need to take place. But let's take a look at this one because there is a lot going on. So, just real quick, if we're looking at this one and we're making some observations, I count one, two, three, four, five. I count six people in a very, very small room. And when we start to look around, I start to see some pots and pans over here. This looks like a little bit of maybe a stove or perhaps a heater. And if we look here at this small room, you do see that you start to see some problems here with it. The fact that it is certainly cramped, since we have about six people in here. But the other thing is that when you're looking at certain things that are there or should be there, it gives you an idea of the conditions in here. So if I start over here and I start to look at these pots and pans here, this doesn't strike me as the type of dwelling or room that has a kitchen. So one of the things I'm wondering here is that, well, if they're using these pots and pans up here for cooking, I wonder what it is they're cooking. And I'm wondering where they're actually cooking it, which brings me to odors. If there is a chance where they are cooking in here, or, what kind of odor is going to be left in there? And not only that, when we're talking about odors, if we look here, we could almost get an idea that probably hygiene might be an issue. So the one thing that you might smell in there is body odor. The other thing you don't see in here that kind of makes you wonder, since we're talking about hygiene, is well, where is there a bathroom? Where are they able to bathe or take a shower? And in tenements such as this, those luxuries that many homes have today, because legally they're required to have it, they don't have it during this particular time period. Nobody's required to have that. So another thing that does come up as we're looking at this, you see, looks like clothing is over here. Things are all over the place. Another thing that's going to make you wonder is where are they washing their clothing, which also makes you wonder, what are they doing with the linens here? I mean, are they able to wash their linens or mattresses or whatnot? Right over here, you can see this is probably a bed, but this little particular area here wasn't designed for a bed. So it looks like they may have maybe put that together with just some scraps or whatever they can find in the particular neighborhood. But there are a lot of issues that do come to mind as you look at it. I mean, you got to take what the photograph gives you, but there are certain things that do come to mind, and hygiene is going to be one. Healthcare is going to give me another one as well. Are these guys getting proper health care? They're living in close quarters. It would seem right over here, these two guys, they might be sharing a bed. These people are probably sharing a bed as well, and they're in very, very close proximity to each other, which when we get into situations where you get into the winter months of New York City, colds, bronchitis, and things such as pneumonia or the flu are going to spread very easily in this particular environment, which does also make you wonder what kind of healthcare they're getting. Are they able to see a doctor? And those answers to all those questions are probably not. The why, these guys are probably not in a financial situation where they can afford to. These are actually immigrants living in a tenement in New York City during the late 1800s. And when we look at this room that was somewhere in the neighborhood of like 12 to 13 feet, we're looking at a very, very small room, and you have six people perhaps living in this environment. Probably no bathroom. The other thing that we have to think about as well is that there's no plumbing, which does make you wonder, in the absence of a bathroom, where are they going? Most tenements in this particular time period, they did have a bathroom, but you had one per floor, and everybody that was in that tenement on that particular floor had to share that particular bathroom. So in terms of diseases being spread very easily in this room, if you're talking about 6, 15, 20, however many were on that particular floor, you're definitely going to have to be concerned about disease spreading in a bathroom where multiple occupants are actually using it. Other things you could see here, well, Light seemed to be an issue. Jacob Riis, when he was using this camera, what he did like to do was the flash that he used, which was pretty revolutionary for photography at that particular time, was able to get a clearer picture of certain tenement rooms. This photograph was taken at night. You do see the flash, but the fact that there isn't any light, it does pose another type of danger. What are these guys doing in here for light? Is there a lamp? Is there candles? And when we look at all the clutter around this particular room, if you do have a candle that's lit, a lantern that's lit, that thing gets knocked over with all of these flammable fabrics in this particular area. That fire is going to spread really easy, and all of these people in here are probably going to, succumb to the fire and possibly die from it. Another thing that's going to bring up, since I am speaking of fire, if it doesn't look like there are proper regulations to make sure that there's a bathroom in here, well, if a fire does happen, are they going to be able to get out? Is there fire extinguishers? Are there fire escapes? So there's a lot of that you see in here that would not take place in 2020 because there would be codes and laws that would prevent this many people from being in a particular occupancy. The other thing that you have to consider as well is that you would also need to make sure that in the unlikely event that there was a fire or some sort of emergency, that they would be able to escape this particular environment rather quickly. If you're looking at this room right here, you're probably thinking, well, if this is just a snapshot of what we're seeing in a tenement, what do the hallways look like? What does the exterior look like? Another thing to keep in mind is sanitation. Is there garbage pickup that's taking place in this particular neighborhood? And again, all the answers here lead you to more questions. A lot of the answers for there are no, especially when we're looking at sanitation and hygiene. But this one, also, when people start to see how many people are in this particular room and they start to ask questions and they start to answer those own questions with more and more problems, a picture like this is going to beg for some sort of social reform or reform to take place within the tenement itself. This could possibly lead and will lead to maybe not this particular picture, but other pictures and other conditions are going to lead to, more building codes that are going to provide plumbing, safer conditions for people to live in. But when you're looking at the power of the photographs in the late 1800s, you could certainly write an article about this. And of course, when you would read it, as the writer, they would have to really talk about all the clutter, the odor, the lack of certain things that are supposed to be in place in a comfortable living condition that's also safe. But a photograph here, as you just saw, this does a lot in terms of addressing things.